What's going on, my broskiis? My name is TheLordShiro, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today we're going to be looking at DAZ Bones, my dude. I actually ended up getting this guy from the Day 5 login bonus. As we know, with the 11th anniversary countdown celebration, every single day you log in, you'll be able to get either B rank, A rank, or S rank tickets. Day 5, we all got an S rank ticket, which gives you a good chance of getting, one of the more modern release characters. And luckily enough, I ended up pulling DAZ Bones, which is, of course, we've made dedicated videos about these characters last month when they debuted. With the release of Alba and Mihawk and DAZ Bones, they give great support to characters that have already previously released. And DAZ Bones is the dedicated support character for Cross Guild, which is one of my favorite legends in the game. So of course we're going to be making a video dedicated for this guy now that we have pulled him. And man, this guy's a pretty cool unit. It's going to be interesting to see how he does see play in the future, whether or not the 11th anniversary unit or units that drop are going to change the way that we build high damage teams. Because as we know, slasher teams being able to abuse Zora and Sanji are pretty much like the best teams for doing the most damage possible. And DAZ Bones provides great support with Cross Guild, and Cross Guild is one of those key characters that you can use in those high damage teams to build some pretty crazy shenanigans in terms of set target status, utility, and then obviously orb boost, and having that Rush Sugo special is never a bad thing either. And then having great combination here with DAZ Bones, who does have a super tandem. Not only is it just a super tandem that works with Cross Guild, but it's a one-tap super tandem. What I mean by that is you only have to tap with DAZ Bones and then one other unit in order to trigger the super tandem to activate. And the fact that Cross Guild have the ability to perform Rush Sugo special with the first tap in the chain, you can immediately activate the Rush, then tap on DAZ Bones to trigger the Super Tandem immediately. So meaning that you can get your Rush and your Super Tandem activated with only 2 taps, leaving the rest of your 4 characters on your crew to abuse all of the damage you get from the Rush, from the tandem. And then of course you can finish with a final tap, and there aren't really a lot of good final taps in the game, but there are some that you can abuse to get the most damage possible out of this. Of course, one of the big issues as well is you can't stack 2 Rush Sugo specials at the same time. So if you use Cross Guild as the first tap, you can't then do a final tap Rush with like a Gear 5 or one of the 10th anniversary units, for example. But overall, DAZ Bones is a really interesting character. Even if we take Cross Guild out of the equation, like what is this guy actually providing your team? He's a pretty interesting unit overall. I think most people would agree with the fact that if you have a look at the 3 characters debuting in his batch release with DAZ Bones, Mihawk, and Alba, many people would agree the fact that Alba is probably the best one, and that DAZ Bones is probably the worst one. Just because that if you take the unit out of their collaborative sense, like if you just look at the character in a vacuum, he doesn't really provide as much as what the other 2 characters provide for their teams. So let's go ahead and break down real quick what he does. So in terms of his captain ability, that's definitely one of his biggest downsides, is that he doesn't really provide a lot of usefulness as a captain. He does give some cooldown reduction, 2 turns of that, so in order to speed farm content a little bit, that's obviously quite good to have. And that's still typical, 5.5 or 5.75 times attack if you got a matching slot or not for Driven and Slasher. You get the health boost, you get matching tandem slots, and then you also get the ability with his captain effect, like his additional ability is to get final tap bonus damage. So whenever you use a special ability, one of your crewmate uses a special, it will boost the attack of the next final tap unit that is either a slasher or a driven character by 5%. So overall, it's like, out of all additional effects to add, like if you have a look at the other units that debuted, right, you had Alba with a very powerful captain ability to reduce 10 turns of bind and despair, and then you had Mihawk, who had higher damage with increasing tap chain and all of his great stuff that works well with Shanks. But this guy just providing final tap bonus damage, it's not really the greatest effect ever. I kind of understand why they do it though, because you've got, Rush with Cross Guild, you've got Super Tandem with DAZ Bones, and if you are using him as a captain with all of the special abilities that are going to be activating through using DAZ Bones and Cross Guild and the way that they use their specials, you're going to be launching a bunch of specials, which means that the final tap damage that you do get from that is going to be pretty excessive. But it's just unfortunate that it's not as great are as useful as some of the other characters that have released previously. Like, I don't really see myself going out of my way to use him as a captain, unless if you have a character with captain shift mechanics to switch him out of the captain position. That's the only real scenario I feel like he's going to see play as a captain, because I don't think you're going to leave him as a captain 100% of the time. I just don't feel like it's a really valid thing to do with this guy. It just doesn't really provide enough. So captain ability wise is a little underwhelming. What I will say though that is kind of good is that he does have a super class, and it does work even if you are a crewmate. So that's a very powerful mechanic, especially because cross guild is predominantly what you'd be using as a captain, and the fact that you can just chuck him as a sub and it's going to work immediately because you only need one of the following units in order to activate the super class, being either Zoro or Mr. Zero, Crocodile, which of course cross guild has Crocodile in it. So being able to just use that immediately is great. The ability itself, it does allow your orb boost to be buffed twice. So I don't really know why he has that specifically. I mean, I do get why he does have it in a way, but they could have done a lot of different things here. Like, specifically buffing orb boost twice is a bit of a weird effect to just chuck on this guy. But then he does have the really nice effect of HP guard. Unfortunately, it's not a 100% HP guard. It's only 75%, but it's still great synergy with cross guild, because with the way that rush works, every time you perform your rush Sugo special tap, you are going to be losing HP. This essentially reduces the HP loss by 75%, which is fantastic. It also could be used in a defensive sense, where if you're inflicted with the pain debuff, being able to reduce that pain damage by 75%. It could really mean the difference between winning and losing a game. So I do like that. You know, you can use it in a lot of different aspects, which is great. It also does give you 20% final tap bonus for Slasher and Driven, which is synergy with his captain ability. But again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Just having that ability to just get a 20% damage bonus to final tap as a sub by using his super class as a crewmate, I think that's going to be a pretty powerful effect to have. And then moving on to his special, which is the most important aspect of this character, which is a very good special ability, being able to reduce the cooldown of your top right and middle right characters by 2 turns. That's just a weird effect to have. Only 2 specific units on your crew get that. However, if you do put DAZ Bones in the captain position or in the middle right position, he himself like reduces his own cooldown by a further 2 turns, which is cool. However, not necessarily required, as we'll touch upon in just a moment, but still being able to reduce cooldown makes sense with cross guild. He wants to reduce his cooldown as much as possible, use his special multiple different times, obviously makes sense. He also reduces Rainbow Shield by 3 turns. Now, while 3 turns isn't great, the fact that his special has an inbuilt effect to essentially get double special launch is going to be nice. And then he also changes his own slot, including block, into I believe it's tandem. Yeah, it's block or Wano slots are changed into tandem, so it's a guaranteed tandem slot. Essentially, if any slot you have, it's guaranteed to be the ability to be changed into tandem. Except it doesn't get rid of Semler, doesn't get rid of Rainbow, but like most of the time, 99% of the time, it's a guaranteed tandem slot, which makes sense because he being able to regenerate his own tandem slot allows you to get access to that super tandem ability, which is very, very important. And remember, only one character in the super tandem chain needs to have it, so being able to be the super tandem unit, trigger their own super tandem buff, and even if you get given a full board of Wano slots, you can still get it anyway. So that's powerful that he has the ability to do that. But then, of course, depending on the special number of his special, you'll get different effects. Now, what that actually means is that when you start the quest off, he is given a special counter of 0, meaning when you first launch the special, you'll get this ability to activate. When you launch the special again, you'll have a secondary effect to activate instead. When you first launch it, it gives 2.75 times attack boost to Driven and Slasher for 2 turns, which is already pretty good. And then if you have 5 or more Slashers, or 5 or more Driven, it will reduce his own cooldown by 13 turns. Now, he does have 13 turns when you Limit Break expand him. If you do have this character, I would advise to Limit Break expand him, especially like cross guild as well, because it means that when you use the special ability, he's going to be ready to go, which is important. It's very, very vital. This is literally one of the only characters in the game where Limit Break expansion, without getting buffs to the captain and stuff like that, is actually vital. It does make a difference having that one additional cooldown via that expansion. And then after that, after you launch the special, with the attack boost, you get the cooldown reduction, it gives him a new special counter of 1. meaning when you launch his special again, which he can do immediately because of the way that his special is designed, allows you to remove 7 turns of bind, as well as reducing slasher and driven resistance on the enemy by 30% for 1 turn, so just a nice 30% damage bonus, especially because Cross Guild and DAZ Bones are both slasher and driven characters. You can actually multiply that together, so you get 1.3 multiplied by 1.3, totaling for a 1.69 times damage bonus, because why not? And then also it says if you have an attack boost and an orb boost when you launch the special, it'll increase the effects of the attack and orb boost by 0.5 and increase the duration of them by 1 turn. Cross Guild have the ability to trigger orb boost. This guy gives you the attack boost, buff them both by 0.5 and extend them for 1 turn, lasting for 3 turns total, which is fantastic. And remember that his base special ability reduces cooldown and gives you 3 turns of Rainbow Shield removal, so being able to use that twice, not only do you get the 2 different effects of the special, but the base effect of the special of cooldown, Rainbow Shield removal will also activate twice. So a ton of cooldown reduction, guaranteed tandem slot, attack boost, resistance down, and then also being able to buff and extend those buffs is really, really cool. So of course this character is pretty much going to be relegated to driven and slasher buffing and predominantly being used with Cross Guild, but overall a really, really fun character to use. So hopefully you enjoyed this video today. We're getting close to the 11th anniversary, so hopefully see some more information soon. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.